So it is 5:33, and I am calling, I've already lost it, okay. I'm calling the joint Putney Selectboard and Planning Commission public hearing on the Putney Landing Sidewalk Scoping Study. Are there any adjustments to the order of the agenda for this piece? Anybody? Okay, moving forward to the Select Board items, new business. This is where we are going to hear oral public comments. We've already received written comments, which should be posted online under the Planning Commission page. And this is our moment to receive public comments on that scoping study. The purpose of this hearing is to close out that study, basically to accept it as complete. That does not necessarily mean that we will move forward with any of the recommendations. So with that being said, can I hear, is there anybody who has a public comment in the room on the study? I'm sorry, what's your name?
Clayton Coyle.
Hi.
Hi. I'm a property owner at 67 Main Street, which is just 2 up from the library on the same side of the street. All for public safety. Love the idea of a crosswalk. I'm not sure bringing people from Putney Landing all the way up to the banks and crossing is the best place, simply because people I see coming from there, and just a study of one person observing, an awful lot go to the co-op and also to the Sunoco station. And I don't think they're going to walk all the way up to the banks to cross the street to go back to the co-op or the Sunoco station. It seems more logical to me to have a crosswalk in the triangle area there across from the co-op and deal with all the traffic issues that are right there. Some kind of a plan that's going to address all of those needs right there, pedestrian and traffic, big trucks, little trucks. Everyone kind of needs to slow down coming into Putney. That's the place to do it. And also, if there's new development there on Carroll Brownway, that will add even more pressure on that intersection. So I think that's where this needs to happen. However, if it happens somewhere else, I do think it's important to have a way to cross the street that's safer than what we have now. But in the proposal, there's this suggestion for rapid flashing LEDs embedded in the crosswalk. I have seen these in action down in Florida, and I just have to say, I think it's a very, very bad idea to have those flashing lights wherever the crosswalk is, because as an elderly person, when I'm walking, I keep my head down so I can see when I'm stepping on them. And those flashing lights are a bother to me. I have what's called visual snow. It's not a seizure, but my eyes kind of pixelate if I get bright lights and or move from shadow into sun, whatever. So I really feel that the safety issue is slowing the cars down, not blinding the pedestrians in the walkway. And I have experience with these, and I just have to say they're quite annoying. I don't know what they cost, but I'm very opposed to that. I think what would be better would be a sign, vertical sign, that maybe has a flashing light on it, but has the sign, pedestrian crossing, please slow down, but can be seen by cars from a further distance back so that they really have time to slow down. I know there are issues with having a slow enough speed limit on this highway that we can't slow it down too much. But we need, if we're going to have a sign, we need to have it so it can be seen far enough that people actually can slow down. Because the other problem with crosswalks is if you're in a crosswalk, you feel protected because there's a crosswalk. And on a high speed, I'm going to call this a high-speed highway for crosswalk, you're not really protected. You still need to look left, right, straight ahead, all places before you cross. And the crosswalk is not going to keep you safe on a high speed. So we need to traffic calming, slow the vehicles down as much as we can, have a sign that the cars can see far enough ahead that they're prepared, and then let our citizens be heads up and then cross the crosswalk and not blind them in the process. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there more well, let me go back and forth. Are there comments online?
Yes.
Anyone? online?
I posted some.
No, I mean online now.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I saw your yes, they got
I don't see anything.
Okay, so are there any comments online? There's a hand up, oh, Sue. Sue? You're muted.
Oh, I see. Yeah, she's a hand up, I see.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Eileen, for recognizing me. This is Sue Coakley. I'm chair of the Planning Commission and have been part of the team overseeing this study. And I want to thank Claiborne for his comments and all the other comments that have been received. And would like to note that the Planning Commission met on the 13th of February to consider the comments and even after that have been presented, and we prepared a memo that is now posted under the Putney Landing Feasibility Study page, recommendations to the Select Board that are available for review. And I wonder if, Madam Chair, if you would like to have any review of those recommendations. They're available. I can do a quick summary of the two basic recommendations there about the topics for this evening, but it's really up to you what you'd like.
Yeah, I think that might be helpful. We did get that in email, but I don't see it in our packet here, so it's not actually in front of the Select Board. So if you could briefly review the recommendations, that would be great.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. Let me just have that in front of me. So the basic, let me just head it here, hang on. So the Planning Commission had two basic recommendations. One, which is really the key thing that needs to be addressed soon, which is accepting the study as final. The study has been undertaken since the fall of 2022. It involved a number of steps that are detailed in the study. It's funded by a grant from V-Trans Transportation Alternatives Program, $20,000 for the scoping study and $5,000 match from Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, owner of the Putney Landing Apartments. And it was undertaken to plan for safe and accessible walkway facilities for pedestrians between the Putney Landing Apartments on Putney Landing Road to the existing sidewalk facility on Route 5. So that was the starting point, and began in fall of 2022. The Dufresne Group consulting engineers were hired to undertake the project under the direction of Christy Haskins, who is here today to attend the hearing and available for questions. A lot has happened. There have been a number of public engagements that shaped the review that is done. I won't go into the details of the whole study, but I will say at the highest level, the study is complete. It has met all the requirements of what the V-Trans grant was for. V-Trans has reviewed the study when the original commission has reviewed it, and it has really met all those requirements. The grant ends at the end of March this year. That's including extension. And the Planning Commission recommends, number one, that the study be accepted as complete and received by the town. That will close out the grant. It's a separate matter to act on the recommendations. So the first board Planning Commission recommendation is to accept the study. It's fine, close out the grant, and the town can receive the final money from V-Trans for this. And the work really is complete, and in fact had some additions to it, and I want to thank Chrissy Haskins for her attention to that. The second recommendation really is what to do next now that this has been undertaken and completed, building on the intent to provide safe and accessible walkway facilities in the Putney Landing area. This study was done, began before the town plan was undertaken, and as you all know, the Planning Commission engaged the community to develop an 8-year town plan that is now complete. And the issue of sidewalk facilities and safe passage for bikes as well as pedestrians was really a tough issue in the town plan. Given the amount of time that had passed since the select board had last had a hearing, a joint hearing with the planning commission, which was April of last year, and since then the town plan, the planning commission recommended to the select board that we have some additional public input. And we did that. There was this neighborhood walk that was held a couple of weeks ago, an opportunity for written comment, largely because a lot of new thinking and opportunity to hear some different ideas was there, and we needed to hear it to finalize it. And not to finalize it, but to talk about what does the town do next. So the planning commission really appreciated the comments that we received, as well as the discussions that we had in the neighborhood walk with the select board and members of the community. And out of that, what we suggest as next steps that fit actually largely what Mr. Coyle's comments are, I would say. We recommend that the town, building on the study, just there's three things. A is to apply for design and construction funds from VTrans for a stage 1 project that would provide a safe pedestrian pathway that is a subsection of the alternative that was presented. It would simply be a crosswalk across Route 5 by the library, with a walkway between the two banks, so there's a safe way to walk over to Old Depot Road and to the existing sidewalk that's at the Laura Plant's house right there. And that be the extent of stage 1, which would provide a way for the community in that whole area of town to safely cross. And I thought that Mr. Coyle presented that quite well, the need for that. And I appreciated his comments about the type of signal that's needed, and that would be brought up in the final, design phase. What is appropriate? I know that the type of signal at the Putney Central School has worked quite well, and that's similar to what Mr. Coyle recommended. The cost of doing that was estimated about $116,000 in a sort of breakout, and I could talk later about VTrans funding that could fund a significant portion of that. So it's a much reduced cost for a stage 1 project. B, the second thing we recommended is that the town enter in discussions with VTrans for a stage 2 solution that would look at the Putney Landing Route 5 intersection that Mr. Coyle noted is, and many others have, is saying it's dangerous. A lot of people try to cross there, and it really needs a rework. And I think as we look at more activity, both new housing, but also the Green Commons project there at Carol Brown Way, it's important to have safe crossing there. Now that the Planning Commission heard the community on that and felt it's urgent to begin that conversation with VTrans, and in that embed a safer pedestrian crossway from Putney Landing Road over to Carol Brown Way at that juncture. And that is a whole design issue that needs to be done with VTrans, who basically manages for the state Route 5 and Putney Landing Road, which the state owns. So that was the second thing, again, largely what Mr. Coyle just said. And then C, for the select board to support the planning commission to seek grant funding to undertake a comprehensive village plan that would look at the overall sidewalk network to build out, including building it out around Carol Brown Way, Alice Hallway Drive, Old Route 5 to Main Street. But that is in the town plan as a recommendation, is to write that comprehensive village plan, and actually seeking funding for that is in the Planning Commission's plans for calendar year 2024. Begun to look at how could that comprehensive village plan be done in cooperation and collaboration with community members and organizations. So supporting the commission to do that study to really look at sidewalks in a more comprehensive way. So those are the three recommendations of next steps: a stage 1, a stage 2, and let's do a comprehensive plan to really think about it. And I'll just say that really builds on the public comment that we heard, and it really builds on what the select board decided back in April last year that to look at two options. One, a walkway that would take pedestrians away from that dangerous intersection, and that's why Old Depot Road, and make for safe passage from Putney Landing Walkway, Putney Landing Apartments up along Old Depot Road. So that was alternative 3. We're saying doing a subsection of that. And they also said that they were quite interested in a walkway that would cross over Putney Landing Road, Route 5 to Carroll with Brownway, with some reworking. Well, actually, potentially major reworking of that whole intersection. So that is, kind of building on all of those things. And I think that this recommendation, stage 1, stage 2, and a comprehensive plan really build on what we heard from the community, and it is supported in multiple sections of the 2023 town plan. Taking action on that today is not as important as simply accepting the study is done. The last thing I'll just say, how can stage 1 be funded? So VTrans provides funding through 2 different programs for walkways. And one is their bicycle and pedestrian program that funds small-scale projects. They fund those projects, 50% of the cost of the project, the town funds 50%. Their transportation alternatives program that funded this study in the first place provides an 80% cost share and 20% is the town cost. So for a $116,000 project, the town cost would be about $23,200 in that neighborhood, a much smaller amount of money than was talked about for the larger project. And the final design, to come up with that would be part of, public comment would inform that in the design process. So the Planning Commission says, just again, close the study. We do think it's important to build out the sidewalk network, but let's take it in these steps and address the larger issues that the community has presented. And that's my presentation. I will just ask other members of the Planning Commission who were part of that meeting if you had anything you want to add to my presentation here.
Are there Planning Commission members that are Pip? Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I wish that you had this in paper so it was convenient to follow along. Now that you have it, it is precisely what Sue was covering, and the recommendations are highlighted on the 2nd and 3rd page.
Yeah,
we got this.
We did get this in email, but we didn't get it in our packet, so it wasn't in front of us right now. So
Yeah.
I know I read it. I don't know if everybody else had a chance to. So, but it's better to have it in front of us as we were listening. So thank you for handing that out. Vanessa, did you have a comment? Okay. Is there anybody else on the Planning Commission? I see Robin is on. Do you have any additional comments before I open it back up to the public?
This is Robin. No, I have no additional comments other than to add, I think that this process has been community driven from the start, and the selection of this route, the preferred route, came about because of community input. It's different from the original alternatives that were proposed. And with further community input, I think we have good guidance as to where we should go with this. So just thank you to all the people who have given us their points of view, and credit to Sue for using that and going forward with what people have told us. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So are there other public comments on the study? I'm sorry, what's your name?
Kira Sawyer.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate what Sue had said. That feels a lot better to me. We live on Old Depot Road, and we really don't want a sidewalk. It seems completely unnecessary and like a waste of money, but we'd love a crosswalk. I'm not 100% convinced it needs to go all the way to Old Depot. It seems like a lot of cost, but maybe it does for people that are more mobilely challenged or, need a smoother path. So that feels a lot better. And some of the other things that Sue had mentioned as well, we're worried about our taxes going up and just unnecessary cost and noise and everything. And my daughter would like to say a quick comment as well.
Absolutely. What's your name? I'm sorry.
Samara, and I don't want a sidewalk.
Okay. Thank you.
So-
Thank you for speaking up.
Anyway, thank you for hearing and changing your plans based on feedback, because we appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not entirely 100% certain about the way V-Trans decides where we can and cannot put a sidewalk, a pedestrian walkway on a state highway. But we were originally told that we couldn't just dump people into a parking lot. I don't know if that's always the case, but that's part of the consideration of having a walkway to another sidewalk.
Sure. Somebody had told me once that it could just be like one kind of block of a sidewalk instead of an entire sidewalk. It has
It's
to
possible, yeah. It really does depend on what V-Trans will allow, and I do have Chrissy on the line that may correct me on that. Chrissy?
Hi, thank you. So in response to that question, for an actual sidewalk running from Route 5, from the new crosswalk at Route 5 to Old Depot, if you're gonna have a crosswalk, first of all, you do need state approval. You would have to get a state permit, a V-Trans permit for the crosswalk. And that just means checking some warrants, the criteria for needing a crosswalk, and then submitting an application and getting V-Trans approval for it. Now, V-Trans in general does not like crosswalks or sidewalks that don't have logical terminations for pedestrians. They don't want to just dump pedestrians off where there's nowhere safe for them to go from there. So since there isn't a sidewalk on the other side of the road, they may push back with, there isn't one running along Route 5 on the other side of the road. And so a sidewalk from Route 5 to Old Depot, or some sort of pedestrian pathway to Old Depot, would provide that logical point to connect to. And then also under the funding, if you utilize funding for it, everything has to be ADA compliant. So you can do a gravel pathway that is ADA compliant. It does require more maintenance, but that is an option if you wanted to pursue that for a little bit less cost. And I also wanted to go back to the first comment that was mentioned tonight and just provide a little bit of feedback on that.
Certainly, go ahead.
As Sue mentioned, the idea of improving that intersection for everyone, pedestrians, vehicles, everyone, is a great idea, and that is a long-range plan. It sounds like that's something that the town does want to work towards. In the short term, for the proposed crosswalk on Route 5, the flashing light, the flashing beacon, is not a requirement. We often recommend them at entrances to villages because traffic tends to be moving faster coming into the village, and so they don't expect crosswalks yet, so we do tend to recommend them at those points to really bring attention to the crosswalk. It doesn't flash all the time. It is push button activated, so when somebody wants to use it, they push the button, it flashes for a specified amount of time, and then it shuts off again. And the signs, so even if you didn't want the flashing lights, the signs are required regardless because it's coming into a town area where crosswalks are not expected. And so the signs ahead of that crosswalk and at that crosswalk are required for bike trans.
Okay, thank you. Are there further comments in the room? Clay?
Clay, yes. I just have one big concern. I think if there's a crosswalk put across from the library, is it true that we will need to lose at least 2, if not 3 parking spaces to make that happen according to state law? Because parking is pretty tight there anyway. And there is no parking further towards the co-op. So there seems to be a struggle between the logic need for library to bank, if you will, to Depot Road connection versus going ahead with a bigger plan that gets it all to happen down by the triangle and by the co-op. I don't know how to resolve all those issues, but I do see that if a crosswalk by the bank means losing 2 or 3 parking spaces, that will really seriously impact the library for any events that they have. And I think that would be a disservice.
Chrissy, do you have an answer to that?
Sure do. So you cannot park within 20 feet of a crosswalk. So I think we had estimated that you'd be losing 2 parking spaces. It depends on exactly where the crosswalk goes. But yes, you would likely lose parking.
Okay. I mean, I guess the flip side is the more sidewalks and crosswalks you're putting in, the less traffic you're theoretically producing. I don't know if it seems logical to me. I don't know if that's reality. Yes. So that's a good comment. Are there other comments in the room? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting everyone's names.
Nancy Olson. Speaking as, just thinking about the conversation as I'm listening to it, speaking as an older driver, those flashing signs for pedestrians at crosswalks are really helpful in the winter months when I, as an older driver, have headlights coming at me, but there are people crossing. I'm thinking of Western Avenue, for example, where honestly, if there were anybody in the crosswalk, I wouldn't see that person. But if the lights are flashing, then I really slow down. I mean, I'm already going slowly, but then I really slow down because I know someone's there. So I'm advocating for the flashing lights.
Okay.
Lights in the roadway itself?
No,
On the sign?
on the
Lights on the sign.
I'm fine with flashing lights on the signs. Just get them out
No
of
lights on
where I'm
the
looking
road.
to
Yeah,
walk.
I'm not sure that was, I mean, it might have been a suggestion, but
I've
not even seen that in Vermont. I don't know how that would work with a plow.
What really triggered me on that was the rapid flashing, and that's what they have in Florida. They're just pop, 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 and now it's only, they have a motion activated there because there's so much traffic, and they're flashing almost all the time. I know that would not be true here, but when they go off, it's a pretty rapid flash.
Yeah, that can be annoying.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Mary? Is that Mary Quinn? Has your hand up?
She may be muted.
Mary, are you muted?
I was in the car. Yeah, I'm here. I was in the car and I couldn't find a local speaker. The gentleman that talked about parking for the library, there's parking past the library. There's parking in the library parking lot. I rarely see more than 2 or 3 cars out front. I go to the library a lot. So I don't know if that's a valid concern. It may lessen parking for an event. That's one thing. But that would always be the case, whether there's 2 spaces there or not. But I just don't think it's a valid point to make in terms of whether there should be parking there, because there are parking spaces south of the library entrance too.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody, a representative from the library here? I don't think so, but if we pursue this, we can talk to the library as well to see what their thoughts are. Mary, your hand is still up. I assume you're done speaking. Vanessa?
Let's absolutely get the library's opinion on this, but just as a counter, I would say that those spots in front of the library seem to me to be heavily used. I certainly, make use of them. There are multiple businesses right there. It's definitely something to consider. I don't think it's an illegitimate suggestion or concern.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments online from the public on the study, on the scoping study? Daniel?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I like the crosswalk idea, like I said, when we had the walk around. I don't believe we need a sidewalk on Old Depot Road. And it didn't sound like the maintenance plan had been thought out for how we're gonna plow it if we did put a sidewalk on. Right now, the town does a fantastic job, a couple passes with on the road, clears the road, awesome. I can imagine putting a sidewalk in, then you're gonna have to, watch the curb, you're gonna have to get that little buggy thing to plow it. So I think it's quite unnecessary. It's not used very often. And I think it would definitely change the nature of Old Depot Road. It's kind of what we like about it. It's a Vermont, rough around the edges kind of road. So I like the crosswalk across Main Street around the library area. That seems like we should do that. But sidewalk on Old Depot Road, I think is a bad idea. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Does the select board have any comments? Are there further comments in the room on the sidewalk scoping study? Vanessa?
Just as a general comment, it seems like this is another instance where this kind of came about without, as we've seen from almost all of the input from people, it came about not from resident interest or any expression of concern or interest or desire from the residents, and a lot of time and effort has gone into this whole process. And so I hope that it can be used as a lesson and a warning to not engage in these kinds of processes unless there's actual resident interest.
Okay, thank you. Clay?
I'm sorry, I just had one more comment. I thought when Putney Landing was permitted and zoned and passed and all that there was a provision for them to make a sidewalk that somehow came out to the Route 5 triangle across from the co-op. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what my recollection says. So I don't quite understand why the focus is on Putney Landing residents. It seems to me that their developers, builders, landlords ought to be addressing their need to get to the road safely. And for the rest of us, I understand they are a part of us, but given that this was set up to be about them and getting safely across, it has sort of become a separate entity. But let's be all inclusive. We need a plan for everybody in town to get across Route 5 safely in the best interest of everyone, and not spend super money just because Putney Landing is in a place where it's tough for people to get across Route 5. I don't know if I said that really clearly, but I think it would be best to skip everything until we have a comprehensive plan about what's going to happen, where all those roads are coming together, and how everyone, including Putney Landing residences, people from Rods, people from the co-op, people going to the Sunoco, everyone can have sort of a clear, comprehensive path to get across Route 5 safely, and also deal with some of the traffic issues coming into that spot. And so that would be saying no to a crosswalk at the library right now. I will say, I live just up from the library. I go to the bank, you have to wait. And even with a crosswalk, you have to wait. Traffic is not so bumper to bumper that you can't cross safely if you're alert. So it seems to me, I know there's been an awful lot of effort on this to get a crosswalk up by the library, but rather than bulldoze that ahead in a plan 1, I think we really need to skip to a bigger plan on option 3 and see what's going to happen with that intersection. That just seems to be far more worthwhile. So thank you.
Okay, now I've got a lot of hands up. I want to correct the record on the permit that Putney Landing applied for. I have it here somewhere. When they applied for that permit, there were they were permitted for two separate walkways from their property. One was to Old Depot Road. The other one was to the intersection of Putney Landing Road. The one that was to Putney Landing Road, in discussion with the town, and is noted in the permit that was that there were major pedestrian concerns, like there are with putting a sidewalk there now. So they did not build that piece. They did build the Old Depot Road access point, and that was all that they were permitted for. They were not on the hook to then subsequently build a sidewalk. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that was what was in the permit, and they did exactly what they said they were going to do.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, I have, wait, hold on, I've got Ellen.
Okay.
Hold on, Ellen. Then I have Jeanette, and then I have Lisa, in that order, and I've written it down. Ellen.
Hi, Ellen Strong, Putney. I just want to speak. I am actually the director of the Putney Food Co-op, the president of the board of directors. I'm not here in that capacity, so I'll just speak as a member. But one of the things I did want to mention is that we have plenty of shoppers and customers from Putney Landing who come across to the Putney Co-op, sometimes like daily. So I would guess if we had our GM in here to speak, I'm not going to speak for him, but we would be really pleased to continue making it easier for our customer base to come into the store on foot. And I also just wanted to say we have a lot of students at PCS who live in Putney Landing and frequently are walking. My own kids have gone over there to visit, so I just want to point out that there's a lot of reasons to connect that and a lot of benefits. However the sidewalk configuration works out, I'm definitely in favor of making it easier to travel on foot for all of our kids and our community members.
Okay, thank you. Jeanette?
So I also live on Old Depot Road, and I think that I think we need to have the crosswalk and the connector right away, because it is dangerous to cross there, and we need to have the more comprehensive plan to look at that awful section there where people try to cross and come across from Rods to the co-op or to the library or wherever. So we need to have that. But I will say this sidewalk we somehow have equated it with just the people at Putney Landing. I live on Old Depot Road. There are 30 units, 30 apartments on Old Depot Road. That's more than there are at Putney Landing, I believe. I think there's 24 there. So there are 30 there now, and there's a proposal for at least 4 more. So it isn't just, we're not talking just about Putney Landing people, and I think we need to make sure that we're talking about a lot of other people who live on that street. And I don't care if there's a sidewalk there or not, but I do know that we need the crosswalk and the connector.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
I'm not here because I was co-chair of the Downtown Revitalization Task Force, not in that capacity, but through that experience, I did want to just remind everyone that back when we were doing the VCRD visits and we had hundreds of people in the several meetings, it was clearly one of the top priorities was making downtown walkable and safer. And that was definitely on our charge list of things to address, and our design group were trying to address that, and very excited that the select board was already undertaking this study. So it was a good first step. I also think the third idea of the comprehensive plan is a good one too, but I think there was definitely lots of residents that were very interested in the idea of connecting the sidewalks and making it safer.
Okay, thank you. I have Elizabeth with a hand up. Elizabeth, you might be muted. Okay, there you are.
Now, again, I came from the fire department meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, and I want to remind all of us that we are part of a greater region. And the assessment of the fire department was talking about a regional plan. And why aren't we talking to Dummerston about working towards a regional plan of how we can get people to even to Sunoco and safely even to the park and ride, and having a comprehensive plan before we willy-nilly put anything up really makes the most sense. And so we can all look at it and we can say this is going to be the next stage and do a comprehensive and well thought out plan.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Is this the time?
Yes, I do want to make sure that everyone has had their say. It does sound like things are maybe winding down here. Are there any other comments on things that we haven't already heard? Any other ideas? Online, in the room? Okay, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the final Putney Landing pedestrian walkway scoping study. Final report with the associated Putney Landing pedestrian walkway final report addendum.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the Putney Landing pedestrian walkway scoping study final report with the Putney Landing pedestrian walkway scoping addendum. Is there further discussion on the board? This is to close out the study. And so that we can get the grant money. Any other discussion on the select board? Is there further discussion online? Any comments online? Are there comments in the room?
George.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
George.
Thank you.
Closing your study doesn't set in stone where your crosswalk or anything is at all.
No, not even, and even like a design space would be an open-ended, not necessarily open-ended, but it would not necessarily be set in stone either.
That was just assessing the need for a sidewalk or a crosswalk.
Yeah. Okay. Hearing no other comments. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Does the select board want to wait for another day to look at this, further look at the other recommendations?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So we are going to table that part. We do have a full agenda on our table, so thank you, Sue. We'll revisit that maybe the next meeting. I know you want to get that going one way or not getting going. You want to know one way or the other fairly soon so you can work on other things. But I would just want to say thank you for everyone for coming and thank you sincerely for your input. With that, I would like to make a motion to close the hearing. Hear a motion to close the hearing, rather.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to close the joint Putney Select Board and Planning Commission hearing notice on the Putney Landing Walkway scoping study. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thanks for coming.